Welcome, everyone, to another installment of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. This is episode 72, and my name is Erik Roth, shamanic alchemical astrologer, here to talk about the upcoming September outlook, the forecast for September 2025. And we're going to go dive into this. It's highlighted really strongly by the eclipse season that we are already in. Officially, it started yesterday, as of this recording, it started yesterday, August 26th, and will go on until September 26th. But the center of that is right where these two eclipses take place, or close to that anyway. All right, so let's get on with this particular episode. All right, so obviously the highlights, lunar and solar eclipses taking place. We have Saturn's return to Pisces, Uranus stations retrograde, Mars moves into Scorpio, Venus in Virgo, the Sun in Libra, which is also the equinox, the September equinox. There's some major oppositions, and then Mercury moves through into two different signs in this month, Virgo and Libra. So a lot of Virgo Libra energy coming up this month. And with the Mars and Scorpio appearance, that also is going to create some really interesting dynamics for all of that. All right. So one of the, just to kind of give you an overview here, like on September 1st, Saturn goes right off the bat going into Pisces. September 2nd, Mercury goes into Virgo. Uranus stations retrograde on the 5th. And then before the first two eclipses, 2 days before the eclipses, it happens on the 7th and the 21st for the two eclipses. And then there's a powerful period between the 18th and the 22nd. Actually, really, we could throw in the 23rd on there, which includes the eclipse of the 21st, with Mercury and Mars all ingress into new signs. And Venus is in there also ingressing into a new sign. And then, of course, we have a second new moon in Virgo, which is also a partial solar eclipse, or a, what do you want to call it? Mostly solar eclipse. It's like close to 90% of the sun is covered. So it's pretty strong, but not total. Not total. All right. So the outer planets in September, everything this month is now Mercury moving retrograde. Uranus was the last one that started to move retrograde in the month of September. That's going to happen on the 5th. Every other planet is moving retrograde. Pluto is slowing down. It will station direct in October, but it moves just a little bit from 146 Aquarius to 124. Eris, of course, is moving very slow from 2535 to 2520 Aries. Chiron is catching up to Eris and will be conjunct Eris for the second time this year on October 8th. Chiron moves all the way back to 2536. Saturn, the big change there, moving into Pisces on September 1st. And it starts out right at 0000 Aries, so right at the exact vernal equinox point or March equinox point, and it goes all the way back about 2.5 degrees to 2744 Pisces. Neptune gets closer and closer to Pisces, but ends the month at 1/2 degree Aries, 0032, moves into Pisces in October. And then Uranus will end the month in just moving a little bit from 127 Gemini to 112 Gemini. So those are the outer planet movements during this time period. So the first stop right off the bat, Saturn regresses or ingresses back into Pisces, depending on one's perspective. This happens on September 1st. And so this is a chance for us to kind of review all the energy around Saturn's previous years in the sign of Pisces going back to March of 2023 and all the shifting that went on. And it was, of course, with Neptune during that time in the same sign anyway. So it's helping us kind of look at our vision, our dreams around what we want, the desires, and what limitations we came up against. It also, like, there's a big thing around the regulations and laws around reality altering substances across the country, and some of the flipping back and forth on that. I will also share around that particular item that if you go back to my Saturn and Pisces video, I do talk about that in a little bit more in depth in that particular video. But notice interesting that since Saturn has moved into Aries, there's been a lot of activity around policing and using military in U.S. cities, particularly in L.A. and in D.C., for example. So there's something about that, and its connection with Neptune is going to make things really, really interesting to see how that plays out, because it also activates a really, really strong counter force around activism and injustices and fighting for freedom as well. So that polarity is going to be really, really strong as Saturn moves back into Aries in February of 2026. But for right now, things are kind of going a little bit back, and so we'll see how kind of this fuzzy Neptunian or foggy type of area, nebulous type of area is showing up during these several months that Saturn is in Pisces. Okay, so what is the next? Oh, Mercury and Virgo. This is from September 2nd through the 18th. Mercury is the fastest moving moving planet outside of, the moon and the sky. And Virgo just happens to be one of the two signs that traditionally rules, emphasizing the qualities of the Virgo mind, perceptions, and communication expressions. It's the Virgo mind is about details, patterns, and the sacred work in the world. The Virgo mind is a wonderful investigator and is able to see things that others may no longer detect or can't detect on some level. Virgo's always attempting to see the deeper order of things and also to make sacred and orderly their own patterns. So not just the patterns within themselves, but to try to work it to be able to see and understand and try to bring order and see and understand the patterns that also show up in the world. The mind can also be perceived by others as the Virgo mind, as tedious, perfectionist, judgmental, and unyielding. That's kind of the shadow end of Virgo, but it depends on the circumstances and the perception that others see on that. These are not necessarily personal, but Virgo is typically, in a lot of ways, pointing out through observation where things belong. So, but again, there could be a lot that Virgo can learn from other people's perspectives and be able to have that dialogue there. Now, one thing that right after Mercury moves into Virgo, it squares Uranus on September 3rd. So that entry into the sign of Virgo could be a little bit choppy and unpredictable, kind of a little flashy in how things could end up popping in the world. Uranus will station retrograde a couple days later on September 5th, 2025, right at the end of the day on the West Coast. And for the East Coast of the US, it'll be on September 6th. So, depending on where you live, for most of the world's population, it'll be on the 5th. I'm sorry, on the 6th. And then for Mountain and Pacific time, it'll be on the 5th. And for about half the Pacific Ocean as well. All right, so it's been noticed that whenever Uranus stations retrograde, there has a tendency to be events that take place, like significant events, not just any little thing, especially things that are unpredictable. So that nature of Uranus tends to reveal itself more strongly. And in the sign of Gemini, Uranus has definitely brought in a wilder mind that follows a highly unpredictable path. And Uranus and Gemini is featured in the US natal chart. This means that means we are currently in a preliminary phase of the Uranus return for the United States. At each return cycle, Uranus has assisted us in powerful changes for the US and its outsized influence on the world stage. So, get ready for some bumpiness during the early part of September here. Now, the next stage is this September 7th total lunar eclipse. So this happens at 1:55. Sorry, oh yeah, that's the total. So yeah, 11:11 a.m. of all things, 11:11, a magical number. That's the center of the maximum eclipse period. So it's a 5.5 hour total duration. And you can see on the map here where the center of it takes place, right in the middle of Asia, uh, parts of the Southeast Asia and Pacific, and Indian Ocean, and part of Africa on the far eastern side, including Madagascar and the Arabian Peninsula, and then Western Australia as well. But most of the world will get to experience some level of this eclipse. It's mostly just the Americas, North and South, that don't get to really experience very, very little of that eclipse. And so this Pisces full moon eclipse is at 1522. That should be Pisces, not 1522 Aquarius, 1522 Pisces. So uh, September 7th, well, they say the full moon is at 11:08, but 11:11 is the eclipse. So it's right in that zone. It's interesting going to two different places and getting two different things. Like solar fire shows 11:08, so there's a 3 minute difference for some reason. All right, so it one of the big things I wanted to point out in this is that there's a trine to Jupiter here in Cancer. And so this really opens up, the areas of compassion and empathy and how, particularly in combination with Pisces, and how that can be the what astrologer Dane Bajar talks about as being the highest expression of Pisces, like the universal compassion, the cosmic compassion for all peoples. And that compassion can lead to greater wholeness, not just for the individual, but for the human collective as well. And so I do feel like there's a higher level of compassion that has the potential to come out on some level, or at least be seated in this eclipse. There is a whole video that I do with Caitlin Castell about the full moon eclipse that is in Pisces. So, uh, take a look at that, and I'll have that linked up to at the description of this video as well on the bottom. Jupiter is only 4 degrees, 3.5 degrees from uh, the exact trine to the lunar eclipse in Pisces. So I think Jupiter is really helping to enhance and bring this out more strongly. And it could lead to much greater involvement of people, being able to see the world as it is, and the need for the heart and for a loving compassion to show up really strongly. So the sacred symbol of this full moon eclipse in Pisces is, in a quiet moment, a creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. So a lot of these key words have to do with realizations, dreams, messages from a higher source or self, inspiration, turning on the tap of creativity. So it's really self-evident here about what this eclipse is about. And the flip side, though, you can get lost in the inspiration, and you can get lost in the visions, and that can emerge, and even losing track of time and reality. And that's certainly par for the course for Pisces. It can certainly go in that direction, lose itself in that space. So this is, I think, really this moment here that this eclipse takes place on this day, wherever you find yourself in the world. It's a chance to kind of really interconnect with the energies of this eclipse in those quiet moments, and where is your heart in all of this? You can check in with your heart and empathy, and where do you have empathy and compassion for in the world, and family, and for friends, and community. All of that is the heart is absolutely needed in this on this planet, and there it seems to be, especially when you're looking at a lot of the mainstream media, and even sort of the politicized everything, you're not seeing very much heart in all of this. And so this is an opportunity for us to come together and welcome in the heart and have compassion. Compassion is a survival, empathy is a survival quality of humanity. Without these two qualities, humanity would have long ago been erased from this planet. So it's really important for us to really connect in with our hearts and to see each other as more than just us against them, but as one large family, one human family, and one universal family. All right, so that 3 days after the first eclipse takes place, we're at the center of the exact eclipse season. So the center doesn't always happen right between the exact first eclipse and the second eclipse. It all always happens on when the sun is conjunct one of the lunar nodes. And so at 16 degrees, a lunar node is a lunar node conjunction of the south node of between the sun and the south lunar node. So sorry, it's 18 degrees 20 minutes. Um, 16 degrees is the orb. So just to clarify, it's 18 degrees 20 minutes of Virgo is the exact south node sun conjunction, and the eclipse that happened 3 days prior was in the sign of Pisces opposite where the south lunar node is. So the next one is on the 21st of September, and the eclipse season will continue until September 26th. Excuse me. Okay, so then we have a Mercury Sun conjunction on the 13th, and this is an exterior conjunction, meaning the Mercury is behind the Sun. So the Sun is between the Earth and Mercury. And so there's two types of conjunctions that Venus and Mercury have, ones that happen in between Earth and the Sun, and the ones that happen where the Sun is between the planet and the Earth. In traditional astronomy, they call it superior and inferior. The superior ones means there's a longer lasting conjunction on the exterior, and then the inferior is a shorter amount of time. I don't know how you could really weigh that. These are just two, one is better than the other. It doesn't make any sense to me. So exterior is more descriptive of the actualization of like what that conjunction is about. And then the interior version is where it's sliding between the sun and the earth. So Mercury has about 6 to 7 conjunctions every year with the sun. And this exterior conjunction is usually one of about three per year. So this exemplifies the qualities of Virgo because both of them are going to be at Virgo and at 20 degrees, 54 minutes Virgo. It's highlighting the order and patterns of the world, but at the same time, there is revealed details that may be hidden for some days until after Mercury emerges in the evening sky. So it's going to take a little while, a couple more weeks till the 25th of September for Mercury to show up in the evening sky, and then maybe some things will be revealed right there at the end of September. Then we move into some oppositions between Mars and Eris and Mars and Chiron. So this is the first pair of oppositions. There's going to be more oppositions coming up in September with the Sun and Saturn, the Sun and Neptune. So Mars spends most of the month in the sign of Libra until later on in the month it moves into Scorpio. But near the end of the time, there are two oppositions with the outer planets. September 15th, Mars and Eris in opposition 25-28 Libra. And then Mars and Chiron are opposite at 26-25, 26-12 Libra and Aries. So these kinds of oppositions are things that could create a more intense and challenging path to more peaceful relations. It can also be a powerful trigger for deeper set wounds or for a stronger activism of calling out injustices and fighting for equal rights. So just as I talked about with Saturn and Aries, you could have this police state type of mentality, but in this Mars opposition here, it could like spark greater level of dialogue and activism, um, and the sort of like the touching off of the more sensitive spots for humanity. Mercury then moves into Libra September 18th. It'll go be in Libra until October 6th of 2025. When it does move into there, oops, when it does move into there, there will be also another set of oppositions. Mercury will be opposite Saturn and Neptune on September 17th and 18th. So we have a lot of planetary oppositions that are taking place in the month of September. And that could also trigger that big Saturn-Neptune conjunction, just like the sun will when it moves into opposition a few days later with Saturn-Neptune. So the Libra mind is all about uh, you know, coming off of the Virgo mind. Now the Libra mind is about the relationships and our lives, both on a personal and collective level. Libra mind perceives the personalness of those relationships, prioritizing connections with others and maintaining the relationships. So Libra's mind is in scene where compromises and negotiations can be engaged while understanding the needs of others. That's really a key element, understanding needs of others and also helping to fulfill the needs of others. That Libras can be super good at that. Um, and some of the shadow areas of Libra is codependency and being indecisive. Libra typically does not initiate much and but can learn to develop relationship with themselves, thereby learning how to make decisions and know their own soul's treasures. Or as I think it's, I don't know if it was Rumi that talked about finding the pearl within. So knowing thyself and knowing thy pearl within that self. So Libras, of all the signs in the zodiac, Libra, because it's so dedicated to others, it's important for it to go within and discover that balance, which really the symbol of Libra really represents. And then the next day, this is like this period, like the second half of September is really, really strong. Venus started out the month in Leo, having ingressed into it on August 25th. And then Venus now ingresses into the sign of Virgo on September 19th. So it takes it through a sign that emphasizes details, analytics, sacredness, and service to the goddess and to the community. Venus in Virgo helps us correlate and see the patterns around us. Venus is continuing the energetic shift that Mars, Sun, and Mercury began in the last few months. So while in the sign of Virgo, Venus will square Uranus the next day on September 20th at 122 Virgo Gemini, contributing a new layer to the ongoing double sextile slash mini grand trine with Uranus, Pluto, and Saturn, Neptune. So there's another layer here that Venus is helping reveal in this ongoing saga of these outer planets and their shaping of society. Then we move into the area of the Sun-Saturn, and Sun-Neptune oppositions on September 20th and 23rd, respectively. So the Sun-Saturn oppositions at 28:30 Virgo Pisces, and the Sun-Neptune oppositions at 00:45 Libra Aries. Now, this is really, I think, another powerful point this month because when Saturn and Neptune conjunct officially on February 20th, 2026, it's literally at 00:45 Aries. So the sun in its opposition to um, Neptune at that point on September 23rd may give us some early insights about what's really going on here. So this also forms a kite pattern like Mars did in the month of August when it moved into opposition with Saturn and Neptune. So there's going to be a part two to this kite pattern here. And then these oppositions will ignite the ongoing Saturn-Neptune conjunction period. These themes of Saturn-Neptune will carry on at the core throughout the rest of this year and through March 2026. they'll still be in the window of their conjunction period throughout the rest of 2026 into early 2027, but the core of it will be pretty much done by the time we get to the end of March of 2026. So here's the kite pattern. This is what's going on here. We see the sun in its opposition with Saturn on this day on September 20th. We see Uranus at 122 Gemini, Pluto at 129 Aquarius, and then of course Neptune at 0049, moving back to 0045 when the sun goes in opposition. But you can see Mercury just a few days earlier went into opposition with Saturn and Neptune as well. So there's a lot of energy being catalyzed right now around Saturn Neptune. Really, really big stuff here. So Saturn Neptune becomes the focal point, just like when Mars went over there in early August, opposite Saturn and Neptune, that became the focal point as well. And then we have the second Virgo new moon of in a row. So the third moon in the season typically is the um called the black moon. And it doesn't mean you can go out and see it. It's not something you can witness. It's just like giving attention to that there's four new moons in a season. And so traditionally it's been called a black moon. I'm not sure why it's the third one instead of the fourth, but this happens just a day before the sun moves into the sign of Libra, and which would make the September equinox. So at that 2905 Virgo placement, it it really calls into this strong energy, and at the same time, it's an eclipse. It's a powerful solar partial solar eclipse happening, and I've got some information about that coming up here with the Sabian symbol. Um, so this is something you want to pay attention to. There will be a separate video about this specific eclipse that I'll do in the next week or two. So stay tuned for that to come around. So that I can get a little bit more into details about this, but I'll include some of these slides. But again, this Virgo new moon eclipse is about sacred patterns and service, and it happens at 2905 Virgo, further connecting into this Saturn-Neptune conjunction period. So the Sabian symbol of this is going to be 30 Virgo. So this has to do with having an urgent task to complete. That's the symbol. A man doesn't look to any distractions. So it's like kind of blindfolded to the rest of uh, the things that are going around him and or her. So the symbols about this is really really super focused on just being focused on the task at hand and one's mission and purpose. It is a great time to envision what one desires to do as their duty to themselves and service to the community and others. So, in the middle of the eclipse, it's not necessarily that you're there to make a big decision, but it's really pointing out the importance of, being able to focus on something that you want to accomplish. So this eclipse can give you a moment where you can think about what you want to do. Now, it happens on the West Coast, it happens like before sunrise at 4:37 a.m. Pacific. This is not an eclipse that's visible in the Americas, but or at least in North America, but it's right at in the space there where it can, we're going to be having the eclipse energy that whole day. The day before and the day after will be in the middle of that, so we can really put some energy and attention toward that eclipse on that particular day. And so then the next day, the sun moves into Libra. And this is the September equinox. This happens at 11:19 a.m. Pacific time. The sun in Libra is from September 22nd to October 22nd. So, in the sign of Libra, it's a time for connections, relationship building, and gathering together for productive dialogue. It's the archetypal sign of the partner, the diplomat, the arbitrator, um, or the arbiter, uh, and the part really the one that wants to bring people together. It's as an air sign, Libra's mind is always turning to how to meet the needs of others and around them, including partners, friends, colleagues, and the community. So this is it's really good that we're getting both Mercury and the Sun moving into Libra in this month of September. I think that can be really helpful. And then Mars is going to be in Libra from the first 3 weeks of the month. So having that energy in Libra, I think ultimately will at least provide some semblance of balance with the intense energies that are going on right now in the world. Um, and in addition, if you look at this image here, this is something I pulled in and kind of did a creative exercise with Microsoft Designer, and you could see this kind of symbol looks like the Libra symbol here. Oops, let's go back. You look at the Libra symbol down on the bottom here, it kind of looks like that. And that's what the symbol is meant to be. It's meant to be like either like a sunrise or sunset, creating balance between the sun and so or day and night. So that equal day, equal night kind of thing. And so that's what it's meant to represent there and kind of the balancing there of the night and day, where the twilight energy, when you get into the twilight, it becomes sort of the middle ground between that, and then it just starts going towards more into the night, at sunset anyway, opposite for sunrise. All right, so Mars and Scorpio, this is definitely going to be a big deal. This is from September 22nd to November 4th. It ingresses just after Mars and Scorpio here. Yeah. So on the same day that Sun solar equinox takes place in September, Mars moves into Scorpio about an hour after. And Scorpio is about the deep plunge into controlled intensity and life force exploration. So Mars and Scorpio may bring about a more potent experience of what is already occurring in the world, um, and especially things where the shadow may be catalyzed into conflicts or in conflicts that is already ongoing. So this could be a really, really powerful time. So 2 days after Mars enters Scorpio, it squares Pluto in Aquarius on September 24th. And the moon is in conjunction with Mars at the same time that Mars is in the exact square with Pluto. So this will fuel more intensity and help us set the stage for the entire transit of Mars and Scorpio over that month and a half period that it's in the sign of Scorpio. So Mars is going to be low in the west-southwest horizon after sunset, and it is starting to become more difficult to see in the night sky. But having the moon there on the 24th um, may be helpful to uh, find Mars in the sky after sunset. You'll have to have fairly clear horizon line in the west southwest. So just something to pay attention to as this day comes as Mars moves into the sign of Scorpio there. But I am definitely concerned about the Mars Pluto square on the 24th, and in and around that day as it moves in on the 22nd. So definitely a more volatile period could be coming. So here's on the natal chart. This is what it looks like here. We have Pluto here, and then Mars and the moon. You can see the moon is only 2 minutes, so 1/30th of 1 degree from its conjunction with Mars at that time. And it happens at 1:27 Scorpio and Aquarius. And then the eclipse season ends. So the reason it ends is because the sun has now moved beyond 15, 16 degrees of a lunar node in conjunction. And the eclipses that took place on the 7th and 21st, that was the only ones that we could have. And it starts to dissipate after that point. So this ends this really powerful eclipse season. Well, really, we could say that about every eclipse season, but this one, with all the other things that are happening at the same time, in particular Saturn and Neptune that are still in the conjunction period, I think this makes it for a really unusual period. And what's fascinating about this is that, they're going to conjunct in at zero Aries, and the next eclipses are going to be in February and March. Now, um, at that point, it's not going to be quite like as exact, but there'll still be probably some influence here from those two eclipses that take place in February and March of 2026, which include an annular solar and another total lunar eclipse. So stay tuned for more of that when we get to 2026. But yeah, this isn't certainly not the end of the story here. So here's the chronology for the month. I don't have Uranus listed here on September 5th. It stations retrograde. But every other one is all the major ones are listed here. But you can see on the second half of the month where it really is the larger amount of activity that's taking place, including here the solar eclipse, new moon in Virgo, and Mars in Scorpio, and the Sun, Saturn, and Sun, Neptune oppositions, bookending that. So we have a lot taking place, and of course, Mars Pluto square on the 24th. So this is something I'll be posting on my social media and elsewhere. So stay tuned for that, and please like and subscribe if you really like this presentation about the month of September here. This is really something that I really love doing, and it goes a long way to supporting me. And I do astrology readings for a living, so this is how I earn my living and pay for my rent and food and all of that. So I'm going to be uh, uh, in the future doing online courses and other projects. I have a lot to kind of alter because of the traveling that I tend to do each and every month. So there's some other balances that I need to strike. Now we're talking about Libra in my own personal life. But I do a full moon series with Kaylin Castell on YouTube channels here, also on My Star Alchemy and her own channel, Kaylin Castell. Um, and you can find some more information about our online courses that we put together on mystaralchemy.com. And you can check out my website at inspirenexus.com for more information about readings, events, and mentoring as well. All right. I wish everyone happy eclipse watching. And, I wish everyone a very peaceful and abundant month coming up in the month of September, and for everyone to take care. Thank you very much.